Hi everyone. I made a video a week or two ago, and it was concerning something that happened in my childhood at Lakewood Church in Houston, Texas, with a severely mentally handicapped woman whose family brought her in to have her exorcised, basically. I mean, that's what it was. You can use the term deliverance or whatever you want, but it was an exorcism. And if you have not seen that video, I'm going to try to put some sort of an annotation along the bottom. You may have to hover your mouse over it to see it, because that's what happened to me last time. I never could get it to show up, right? But I'll put a link somewhere down here that will take you to the original video, and you can watch that, because otherwise this part won't make a lot of sense to you. For those of you who did see it, there are some details, some additional details that I'd like to add to it. I think they're fairly important details for you to get the full picture of what was going on that night. I made the video, I put it up, and my mother watched it because I had linked it to my Facebook account. And she said that she had some corrections to make, and I was glad that she piped up, because it did happen so long ago, and although it was very impactful, I'm also a horror fan and very into paranormal stuff, and I've watched a lot of films of people being possessed and movies where people are possessed, and I was a little bit afraid that one of the details that I thought I remembered, I was a little afraid that maybe it was not an accurate memory, so I didn't include it. It seemed kind of cliche too, so I thought maybe I'm not remembering that correctly. So I decided I would rather just leave it out entirely, although it was dramatic, leave it out entirely rather than present it as fact when I wasn't positive that I had that memory. Okay, so Mom confirmed, though, that it was true. She said, and she saw a lot more of this going on, because even though I was one of the older kids of the children that were left there that evening, running around while their parents tried to help this woman, I would sneak in and listen and watch and observe, and eventually somebody would see me and be like, get back up to the front of the church. Okay, so I didn't get to see all of it. But I remembered her actually speaking in different voices. I knew that for sure, but I couldn't remember, because I was only maybe 11, I couldn't remember if it was voices that she could have possibly made herself, because anybody can talk like this, blah, Satan. You know, anybody can make horrible voices, or talk like a little child, or whatever. Anybody can do that. And so I didn't remember if it was that or legit. Mom says that they were legit different voices. Like, no one could make those different voices. They were too different from her. And like I said, I did mention in the last video, she was pretty much non-communicative, just a lot of sort of howling and grunting and doing the best she could, but she was very disabled. So she said there would be male voices, there would be other female voices, there would, be neutral, and I've heard these before, strange neutral voices that don't sound male or female. So I was glad to know that was a memory that was true, and so I wanted to add it, even though it sounds so cliche and like something right out of a movie. Maybe the movies aren't so far off, guys. She also mentioned, she mentioned that the woman was just wildly flailing too, just violently and wildly flailing, which could have been part of her mental disorder. I don't know if she was, I don't know what the diagnosis was, other than, back in it was probably late 70s, early 80s. Profoundly mentally retarded was the term that I heard used to describe her. I don't think they knew a lot about autism then. That could have been part of her problem. I don't know. It doesn't matter. She was who she was. So she was flailing wildly, and they were trying to control her and hold her down. I do remember her trying to break away and get out of there many, many times. Mom remembered something that I did not remember, and I'm glad I don't remember it because I think it would traumatize me worse than the event that I remember actually traumatized me. Mom says that every time they would draw one of these entities out, it would name itself and talk about what its intentions were, why it was there with her. It was almost like they had been sent by God, strangely enough. And I've heard other instances like that where God allows a spirit to come into somebody. They have what is in religious circles called legal authority, and they'll ask a demon, do you have legal authority to be here, in this person? I've actually a few times, and I've had it happen to myself, but I've heard a few times people who are paranormal investigators who have like a spirit box, which is the radio that scans up and down real fast, or they're doing EVP, which is just voices that are in the air. But I have on more than a couple occasions heard the term legal authority being used, and I know what it means. It will just pop up, legal authority. I'll be like, I know what that means. So anyway, as they would as they would draw these spirits, these entities out of her, cast them out, bind them so that they couldn't cause trouble anymore, and send them off to wherever. Going back to hell is not really, it's not what happens, I don't think, because number one, I don't think there is hell, and also because they didn't come from hell, so there's not the option of going back, really. So the earth is their domain. Satan is the king and ruler of the earth according to the Bible, and so it makes sense that his little lapdogs would also be quite earthbound, and their job is here. So anyway, Mom said that as they would as they would cast these out, that the girl would vomit blood. Obviously not a little bit, but rather alarming amount of blood. And I don't know how many spirits they cast out. It seems like that by the end of the evening, when we left, they were not done yet, and there were a lot in there, and they really had to work on her. Mom corrected me. She said it was not 2 a.m. that we got home. It was midnight when we got home. But knowing me, I probably could not sleep and was awake and very excited and wigged out until 2 a.m. I probably did not get to sleep until 2 a.m. And she reminded me that it got so hairy and it was getting so late that she did indeed get my sister and myself and packed us in the station wagon or whatever and took us back home. And I don't know how Dad got home, but he stayed there to try to help. And I have a lot of problems with this constant thing of thinking there's demons in everybody and demon behind every corner and Satan's out to get everybody. I think that is evil to say that. I think it's cruel and untrue. But I tell you, people, there's something. There's something out there. I'm not saying it's after you, it's going to get you. I think real possession is probably a lot rarer than we would ever know. But that's my story, and that's the last of the details of it that we remember. I haven't talked to Dad about it. I really don't know that he would. His memory isn't great anymore, so I don't know that he's an accurate source to go to. But goodness gracious, that's enough, isn't it? I think that gives you a pretty well-rounded view of what went on that night. I would be curious to know what happened after I left. But it is an event, that's my air conditioner, it is an event that's never going to leave me. And it has put an indelible mark on me that reminds me that there really is something diabolical out there. This is not just somebody with mental illness or wanting to get attention, because I have seen a lot of that. I'm possessed, please do an exorcism on me, and they just really need attention. They just really need like some intensive attention and care from other human beings, or they are mentally ill and they're mistaking it for possession when really they just need to go see a psychiatrist and get on some good meds. But with this case, as I've pointed out many times, there were so many elements of it that made it where it was undeniably something supernatural. It was something that was not debunkable. I've tried over the years. I've tried to debunk it, but there's just no way. There's just no way. So anyway, spooky stuff. If ever there was a scary story, I think this is it, because it was true and it was diabolical and it was frightening and it was very sad. It was a very sad situation for this woman to have been victimized in that way. I'm just really glad that they did not give in to her and take her home. I'm glad they stayed there and got the attention that she clearly needed. So take that for what you will. That's it, guys. Bye. Love ya. Button here somewhere.